Plymouth at 3 degrees this morning, whilst Aberdeen sits at 7. Yes, you heard that correctly. Cornwall is colder than the Scottish Highlands right now, and that temperature inversion tells us everything about what ES heading your way this weekend. Is your area about to face the wettest February start in over a decade? Right now, the Met Office has yellow warnings covering 12 counties across England and Wales. That is affecting roughly 15 million people dealing with flooding concerns, travel disruption, and frankly rather miserable conditions. But here is what you need to know in the next 10 minutes. I'll give you exact timing for when conditions change in your specific area. I'll show you where the models are disagreeing about something rather significant for next week, and I'll explain why this weekend weather pattern could actually set us up for something completely different by mid-February. Drop your location in the comments right now, your city, your county, whatever you are comfortable sharing. Tomorrow's forecast will include personalised updates for the areas you've mentioned, and I genuinely want to make sure I am covering the places that matter to you. Right then, let's get straight to the timing for our major cities. London, you are looking at rain developing this evening around 6 o'clock, heaviest overnight with 20 to 30 millimetres possible, easing tomorrow morning but staying cloudy. Manchester, your rain arrives earlier around 3 this afternoon, persistent through the evening, clearing by dawn tomorrow. Birmingham sits right in the middle, rain from 5 o'clock onwards, heavy at times overnight. Glasgow, you're actually staying mainly dry today, but that changes dramatically tomorrow afternoon when a separate weather front pushes in from the Atlantic. Cardiff, rain already with you this morning, continuing on and off throughout the day, but actually improving by this evening. Belfast, you've got the most complicated picture. Dry now, rain moving in late afternoon, but then potentially some brighter spells developing tomorrow that other areas want to see. Now here's where it gets interesting. That area of low pressure I mentioned, currently sitting southwest of Ireland, is tracking northeast. Nothing unusual about that for late January. Atlantic depressions are rather common this time of year, but the speed at which it is moving and the positioning of the jet stream means we are looking at a prolonged period of unsettled conditions. Not just this weekend. We are talking about persistence into next week. Let me show you what is happening across other parts of the country, because there are some significant regional variations. Newcastle, you are in for a blustery day with showers rather than persistent rain, winds gusting to 70 kilometres per hour along the coast. Leeds and Sheffield, you are caught in a convergence zone where easterly winds meet this southwesterly flow, meaning cloud and drizzle for much of today, temperatures struggling to reach 6 degrees. Bristol and Southampton, you will see some bright spells developing this afternoon as the rain clears eastward, temperatures reaching 9 or possibly 10 degrees where the sun breaks through. Nottingham and Leicester, rather grey and damp throughout that nagging drizzle, I'm afraid, 6 to 7 degrees at best. For those of you in Scotland, Edinburgh, you are staying predominantly dry today, but rather cloudy, 7 degrees. But tomorrow, that weather front I mentioned for Glasgow will reach you by early evening. Aberdeen and Inverness, you are actually seeing some decent spells of sunshine today, temperatures around 8 degrees, but don't to be fooled. That changes sharply tomorrow. The Highlands could see some snow above 400 metres as colder air works in behind that frontal system. Wales, let me break this down more specifically. Swansea and Cardiff, as I mentioned, improving this evening. But Bangor and the northwest, you are looking at continued showers right through the weekend, some of them heavy, and those western hills could see 50 to 70 millimetres by Sunday evening. That is significant rainfall, even by Welsh standards. Northern Ireland, Belfast, I've covered, but Derry, you're actually in a better position today, staying mostly dry, though cloud will increase this afternoon. Tomorrow brings rain for everyone across Northern Ireland, I'm afraid. Now, the Channel Islands, Jersey and Guernsey, you are looking at rather blustery conditions today with squally showers, some heavy temperatures around 11 degrees. The Isle of Wight, Brighton and Dover, you are on that southeast coast where winds are really picking up. Gusts could reach 80 kilometres per hour by this evening, particularly around exposed headlands. The Needles, Dover Cliffs, Beachy Head, be careful if you're replanning coastal walks. Plymouth, Exeter and the southwest, you've actually seen the worst of it already. Last night's rainfall was substantial. 50 to 80 millimetres fell across parts of Devon and Cornwall. Today brings scattered showers, but nothing like that intensity. Penzance, you might even see some sunny spells this afternoon, temperatures reaching 10 degrees. Let me just clarify that actually. When I say sunny spells, I mean genuine breaks in the cloud, not just it getting slightly brighter. The southwest genuinely has the best chance of sunshine today across the entire UK. Wait until you see what is coming for next week though. I'll get to that in about 3 minutes, and it involves a rather significant disagreement between the Met Office model and the European model. This difference matters enormously for your planning. Cambridge, Oxford, and the university towns, you are looking at rain developing this evening, persistent overnight, could affect weekend travel plans quite substantially. Norwich and the East Anglian coast, you are actually staying mainly dry today, but rain pushes in from the west tonight. Ipswich, similar story, dry now, wet later. York, you are in that zone where it's just rather grey and drizzly, as I mentioned, for Leeds. Temperatures around 6 degrees, feeling colder in that wind. Scarborough and the North Sea coast, you are dealing with that sea fog rolling in. Visibility down to 100 metres at times, 5 degrees at best, feeling more like 2 or 3 in that damp, raw wind. Liverpool and the Merseyside area, you are seeing showers already, some heavy winds gusting to 60 kilometres per hour, 8 degrees. Blackpool, similar conditions but windier, those westerly winds funneling down the Irish Sea, gusts to 75 kilometres per hour possible. Lancashire and the Pennines, you are caught in that cloud and drizzle pattern. Burnley, Blackburn, Preston, all rather grey, 6 to 7 degrees. The Peak District, yes, you are looking at some wet snow above 300 metres tonight as temperatures drop. Not accumulating significantly, but enough to make hiking rather unpleasant. Now here is what nobody is talking about yet. This low pressure system, once it clears through, doesn't just disappear. It positions itself over Scandinavia by Monday. And that is when things get rather complicated, because what happens next depends entirely on whether high pressure builds in from the Atlantic or whether another depression follows the same track. The Met Office model is currently showing high pressure building in, which would give us a brief, settled spell Tuesday and Wednesday. Dry, yes, but not necessarily sunny. We could be looking at anticyclonic gloom, those grey, murky conditions that Britain does so well in winter. Temperatures dropping to 3 or 4 degrees by night, 6 or 7 by day. But the European model, and this is where it gets interesting, the European model is suggesting another low-pressure system follows hot on the heels of this weekend S system. That would mean continued unsettled weather right through next week. Rain, wind, temperatures staying mild at 9 to 11 degrees, but absolutely no break in the weather. This 50-mile difference in the track of that potential Monday low changes everything for Kent, Sussex, Surrey, the southeast. Under the Met Office scenario, you DB dry from Tuesday. Under the European scenario, you are looking at another significant rain event Wednesday into Thursday. Tomorrow morning, S model runs should clarify this, so do check back tomorrow because I will have a much clearer picture of which scenario is more likely. For Scotland, this matters differently. If we get that high pressure build, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, you are all looking at frost developing, temperatures dropping to -2 or -3 by Tuesday night. Clear skies, calm winds, that is when radiation frost really develops. But if the European model is right and low pressure continues, you stay milder but wetter. Let me address something that several of you asked about in yesterday's S comments. The stratospheric warming event that was being discussed about 2 weeks ago. Yes, it happened. But the downward coupling to our surface weather has been much weaker than some of the more excitable forecasts suggested. We're not looking at a beast from the east scenario. The polar vortex hasn't a split in a way that would deliver Siberian cold to the UK. So whilst I know some of you are hoping for significant snow, realistically, we're looking at typical unsettled British winter weather for now. That said, and there's one detail that concerns me most about the longer range outlook, if we do get that high pressure establishing early next week, the orientation of it matters enormously. High pressure to our west with winds from the north would bring genuinely cold conditions. High pressure over us with slack winds brings that anticyclonic gloom I mentioned, and high pressure to our east with winds from the continent could actually bring some drier, brighter conditions despite the colder temperatures. The models are still working out which of these scenarios develops. By tomorrow, we should know more. Right, back to this weekend S specifics, because I know that S what you planning around. Saturday, for most of England and Wales, starts wet. That overnight rain I mentioned will still be clearing eastward through the morning. London, you are not properly clear until late morning, around 11. Manchester, Birmingham, you are actually dry by 8 or 9 o'clock. Cardiff, you wake up to improving conditions, some bright spells possible by lunchtime. Scotland, Saturday is your drier day. Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, mainly dry, some sunny spells, 7 to 9 degrees. But that frontal system I keep mentioning approaches from the west during Saturday evening, reaching Western Scotland by 10 or 11 o'clock Saturday night. Sunday, this is where Scotland S weather deteriorates. Glasgow, you are looking at rain from early morning, heavy at times, 15 to 25 millimetres through the day. Edinburgh, rain arrives late morning, persistent through the afternoon. Aberdeen, you escape until evening, but rain reaches you eventually. England and Wales on Sunday actually see an improvement. That's the strange irony of this setup. While Scotland deteriorates, most areas further south see drier, brighter conditions developing. Not wall-to-wall sunshine, but certainly some decent spells. London, Birmingham, Manchester, Bristol, all looking at a mixture of cloud and sunny spells, temperatures 8 to 10 degrees. Liverpool and northwest England, you might catch a few showers Sunday afternoon, but nothing significant. Cardiff and Wales, staying mostly dry Sunday, temperatures reaching 9 or 10 degrees in any brightness. The winds this weekend remain a factor. Saturday, strongest across northern and western areas, 50 to 60 kilometres per hour gusts quite widely, 70 to 80 on exposed coasts. Sunday, winds ease for England and Wales, but pick up for Scotland, 60 to 70 kilometres per hour, 80 to 90 on the northwest coast. For those of you planning travel this weekend, the worst conditions are tonight into Saturday morning across the south and Sunday across Scotland. Rail services could see some delays during these periods. The M6, M1 and M25 will all be wet overnight tonight, so do take care. Flooding is possible on some minor roads, particularly in the southwest, where ground is already saturated. Coastal areas, I mentioned this earlier, but let me be more specific. Dover, Folkestone, that southeast coast, very rough seas tonight and tomorrow morning. Ferry services may face delays. Plymouth and the Cornish coast, conditions improving actually after last night's battering. Holyhead and the North Wales coast, rough seas continue through the weekend. And for Scotland's west coast, Oban, Fort William area, Sunday's winds will make for very rough conditions indeed. Hang on, let me check that again on the pressure charts. Yes, Sunday's low pressure will be positioned just northwest of Scotland, so that northwest coast really does see the strongest winds. Hebrides, if you are watching from the islands, you are looking at severe gales Sunday, 90 to 100 kilometres per hour possible. The Orkney and Shetland Islands, you are actually slightly sheltered from the worst of Sunday's system by your position. Still windy, certainly, but the strongest winds stay to your south and west. Temperature-wise across the weekend, nothing extreme in either direction. Overnight lows generally 4 to 6 degrees, so no frost for most areas. Daytime highs 7 to 10 degrees depending on cloud and any brightness. The Scottish Highlands, as I mentioned, could see some wintry precipitation above 400 metres, but at lower levels it's all rain. Now, I know this isn't ideal for anyone hoping for crisp, cold winter weather. Unfortunately, the pattern we are in favours this mild, unsettled Atlantic flow. The jet stream is positioned right across the UK, steering these low-pressure systems our way. Until that jet stream position changes, we restuck with this type of weather. But here's where a bit of hope comes in. Those model runs for the 10 to 14 day outlook, yes, they re-uncertain, but they re-increasingly showing a pattern change possible around the 10th to 12th of February. Not guaranteed, and I cannot stress that enough, but there are hints that the Atlantic influence weakens and we might see higher pressure establishing. Whether that brings cold, bright conditions or just those grey, murky days depends on where that high pressure sets up. By tomorrow, I should have more detail on this. The Met Office will update their medium range outlook, and I will break down exactly what it means for each region. So definitely check back tomorrow around this same time. I want to see your locations in the comments. I've had brilliant engagement over the past few days, people from Aberdeen to Penzance sharing what they're re-seeing, and it genuinely helps me understand what matters most to you. Tomorrow's forecast will include specific mentions for areas that come up repeatedly in your comments, so keep them coming. Before I wrap up, let me give you a brief recap of what we've covered. This weekend remains unsettled, rain clearing south and east Saturday morning, drier for England and Wales on Sunday, but wet and windy for Scotland. Temperatures mild, 7 to 10 degrees, winds strong particularly on coasts. Next week's pattern uncertain, models disagreeing about whether we get a settled spell or continued unsettled weather. The Met Office leans towards a brief ridge of high pressure. The European model suggests more low-pressure systems. Tomorrow's runs will clarify. Longer range, around mid-February, there are tentative signs of a pattern change, but I am not making any confident predictions that far out. Weather forecasting isn't an exact science, particularly at those timescales. What I can tell you is that I'll be monitoring it closely and updating you every day. Here is what I'll cover tomorrow specifically. I'll have the latest model runs analysed. I'll break down that disagreement between the Met Office and European models in more detail, showing you exactly what track differences mean for rain amounts in your area. I'll also look at that potential mid-February pattern change with more data, and I'll give you the detailed day-by-day forecast for Monday through Thursday because I know many of you are planning your week. Tomorrow's forecast will be posted at exactly 6 o'clock in the evening, so make sure you re-back for that. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps. And drop your location in the comments right now if you want tomorrow's forecast to include your specific area. I am genuinely grateful that you are watching, genuinely grateful for the comments and questions, and I hope this has been useful for your weekend planning. Take care out there, particularly if you are traveling tonight or if you are in those areas I mentioned with the strongest winds and heaviest rain. Stay safe, stay dry if you can, and I'll see you tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock with your next detailed update. The weather never stops changing, and neither